This particular video is covering additive property of equality with fractions and mixed numbers. This is a mathematical explanation of basically it's just a one-step algebraic equation and it's involving fractions and or mixed numbers. Okay, so we're going to go through a couple examples here and hopefully this will help. This particular problem is asking us to solve for the variable u. We're looking at the equation u plus 3/4 is equal to 6.5. Okay. So our goal is to get the variable u on one side of the equation by itself. Remember in algebra you have two jobs, to get the variable by itself, but also to keep the equal sign true. Okay, so we're going to do that. It is a one-step algebraic equation, so technically there's only one thing that we're going to be doing to both sides. Okay. So to get u by itself, what's in the way of u being by itself? The adding 3/4 is also on the left side of the equation with the u. So we want to get the adding 3/4 to drop off or become nothing. Okay? And the way we do that is to do the inverse of addition. Okay? So they're telling us to add 3/4. We are going to subtract 3/4. And adding and subtracting 3/4 will cancel each other out, leaving us with just u on the left-hand side. Okay? As we mentioned, two jobs in algebra. One of them is to keep the equal sign true. And the way we do that is to do the same thing to both sides. So because we subtracted 3/4 from the left-hand side of the equation, we also have to subtract 3/4 from the right-hand side of the equation. So you see that happening on both the left and right-hand sides. Okay? The adding 3/4 and subtracting 3/4 cancel each other out and leave us with u on the left side is equal to 6.5 minus 3/4 on the right side. Okay, so we're going to have to subtract 6.5 minus 3/4. I'm going to do that over here off to the side so it doesn't get my algebraic work all messy or jumbled. So 6.5 minus 3/4. However you've been taught to add and subtract fractions of mixed numbers, go ahead and do that process, but I'm going to take you through the way that is most comfortable for me. 6.5 minus 3/4, 1/2 minus 3/4, we need a common denominator, which is 4. So the 3/4 is going to remain the same. And the 1/2 is going to become 2/4. 2 times 2 is 4, 1 times 2 is 2. Okay, so now we have 2/4 minus 3/4. So we'll need to borrow because you can't take technically 3 from 2. So we're going to come over to the whole units, 6, and we're going to borrow 1. So it becomes a 5. Now we have that one whole unit coming from the whole units over to the fraction. We want that one whole unit to become a fraction with the denominator 4. Okay, so it meshes with all the other fractions we have. So one whole unit is the same as 4/4. I'm going to rewrite all this because it's getting kind of large. I just want to simplify it. So I have 5 whole units. I have 2/4 and 4/4. So I have 5 whole units, and 2/4 plus 4/4 is 6/4. And I'm still subtracting the original 3/4. Now I've got the regrouping in the common denominators, we're ready to subtract. 6/4 minus 3/4, 6 minus 3 is 3, common denominator 4. And then 5 minus the 0 whole units is 5. Okay. So the right-hand side, 6.5 minus 3/4, simplifies to 5 and 3/4. Okay. In your answer box, they already have u equals. So in your box, you're going to click on here. There are several ways you can go about it, but you'll type the 5 and then click this button so you can enter the 3/4. Okay, 5 and 3/4 is the value of u. If you want to pause the video at this time and kind of absorb what we talked about, look at the borrowing and everything that was done over here on the right side, feel free to do that. And then when you're ready to go, click start or play again, and you'll be ready for the second example. In our second example, we're solving for W. W minus 2/3 is equal to 8.5. One-step algebraic equation, so we're trying to get the variable by itself and keep the equal sign true. So to get the variable by itself, what's in the way of W being by itself? Subtracting 2/3. In order to get it, subtracting 2/3 to cancel or drop off, so we have the variable by itself, we're going to do the inverse of subtraction. So we're going to add 2/3. Same thing to both sides to keep the equal sign true. Over here on the side with the variable, subtracting and adding the same thing cancel each other out, giving us W equals, and on the right side we need to figure out what is 8.5 plus 2/3. Again, I'm going to do that work off to the side here. 8.5 plus 2/3. When adding and subtracting, you need a common denominator. Common denominator of 2 and 3 is 6. And then how do we get from 3 to 6? We multiplied by 2. So numerator, 2 times 2 is 4. And then here, the 1/2, how do we get to how many sixths? 2 times 3 is 6. And then 1 times 3 is 3. And then we're going to add this time. 3/6 plus 4/6 is 7/6. And then 8 plus no other whole units is 8. Okay. In your mixed number form, you won't want to have an improper fraction for the fractional part, so we do need to address the 7/6 here. The 7/6, we definitely have the 8 whole units. And then 7/6, how many times does 6 go into 7? 1 whole time. And then how many sixths left over? There's 1 after we take the 6/6 out. So the 7/6 is the same as 1 1/6, plus you have the original 8 whole units. So our final step here is to simplify or add 8 whole units plus 1 whole unit is 9, and then the 1/6. Okay, so 8 and 7/6 is the same amount as 9 and 1/6. This will be the answer that you would put in for the value of W using your mixed number icon, 9 and 1/6. Make sure if you have additional questions to ask your teacher and show them your notes, or go ahead and give this skill a try using your notes for assistance. Thanks.